Alright, let's dive into something that's got Europe buzzing, literally. The European Central Bank is redesigning euro banknotes, and the debate is hotter than a summer in Athens. Should the new notes feature cultural icons like Beethoven and Marie Curie, or should they showcase Europe's wildlife, with birds like storks and bee-eaters taking center stage? Personally, I think this isn't just about currency, it's a reflection of Europe's identity crisis, or maybe its identity evolution. What makes this really interesting is how it's forcing Europeans to ask themselves, what does it mean to be European? Is it about shared history, cultural achievements, or the natural beauty that transcends borders? First off, let's talk about the cultural figures. Maria Callas, Beethoven, Marie Curie, these are names that scream European excellence. But here's the thing, Europe has always struggled to define itself through a single narrative. It's a patchwork of nations, each with its own heroes and histories. So, putting these figures on banknotes feels like an attempt to stitch together a shared story. In my opinion, it's a bold move, but it's also risky. What many people don't realize is that choosing cultural icons can alienate as much as it unites. Not every European feels equally connected to, say, Cervantes or Leonardo da Vinci. If you take a step back and think about it, this could end up highlighting Europe's divisions rather than its unity. Now, let's talk about the wildlife option. Birds like storks and bee-eaters are fascinating because they're migratory, they don't care about borders. They just fly. From my perspective, this is a clever metaphor for the EU's core principle of free movement. But here's where it gets tricky, wildlife feels apolitical, right? Wrong. In Britain, when the Bank of England replaced historical figures with animals on their notes, some saw it as a cop-out, a way to avoid contentious cultural debates. This raises a deeper question: is Europe choosing birds because it's easier than picking people, or because it genuinely wants to celebrate its natural heritage? What's really striking is the design itself. The shortlisted proposals are wild, in the best way. One designer cropped cultural figures' faces to focus on their eyes, which I find fascinating. It's like saying, Europe sees you. Another rendered the same figures in a graphic novel style, which feels modern and accessible. On the wildlife side, one artist depicted birds flying vertically across the notes, breaking the traditional horizontal layout. What this really suggests is that Europe isn't just updating its currency, it's experimenting with how it presents itself to the world. But let's not forget the practical side. The redesign isn't just about aesthetics, it's about security. Counterfeiting is a huge issue, and these new notes need to stay ahead of the game. A detail I find fascinating is that the current euro notes use neutral motifs like imaginary bridges to avoid offending any member state. But this time, the ECB is moving away from neutrality. Philippe Jeffrey, the head of new banknotes at the ECB, said they want the currency to feel more European. That's a tall order, especially when Europe itself is still figuring out what that means. Here's where it gets even more intriguing: the cultural figures chosen aren't just random. They're transnational. Marie Curie worked in Warsaw and Paris. Maria Callas was born in New York but made her name in Greece and Italy. These aren't national heroes, they're European ones. What this really suggests is that Europe is leaning into its complexity, embracing the idea that its identity isn't about uniformity but about diversity. So, where does this leave us? Personally, I think the wildlife option has a slight edge. It's inclusive, it's symbolic, and it doesn't risk alienating anyone. But then again, cultural figures bring a sense of gravitas and history that birds can't match. What makes this debate so compelling is that there's no wrong answer, just different ways of seeing Europe. As we wrap up, I'm left wondering, what does this say about Europe's future? Is it a continent still searching for a shared identity, or one that's comfortable embracing its contradictions? Either way, one thing's for sure, these banknotes are more than money. They're a statement. And I, for one, can't wait to see which statement Europe decides to make. What do you think? Cultural icons or migratory birds? Let me know in the comments, I'm genuinely curious to hear your take.